when we get through. So welcome again. We're glad you're here. Uh, Philanthropy and charitable giving, get good from doing good, touch, change, improve, impact, and provide. And that's what we want to talk about today. So research has shown that giving may make people more prosperous. Contributions, volunteering, and living with purpose can give people greater happiness, and a greater happiness boost and bring more meaning to their lives than simply acquiring more wealth. Now, your wealth is comprised of three dimensions: financial, personal, and social. Now, the financial dimension consists of a person's net worth and income, basically all your monetary assets, your investments, your income, and your expenses. And this is an area that we spend a lot of time in at Victory Financial. But our wealth is more than just money. So to think about wealth purely in terms of the financial dimension, you may be missing the mark. Wealth is our relationship, our experiences, and opportunities to do the things that we have a passion for, that we care about, that allow us to make this place just a little bit better. Then in personal wealth, what's found there are things that enrich us and makes our lives more vibrant. The personal dimension includes our physical and emotional good health, the relationships we've nurtured throughout our lifetime, the spiritual richness of faith and all that comes with that. To explore the personal dimension of wealth, maybe you should complete this question. If I had more time and money, I would. What would you do if you had more time and more money? Well, we typically get two categories of answers. One we call dreams, and one we call life prints. So dreams are the things that you hope to do or you hope to accomplish, but you haven't yet given yourself permission to do that. Life prints are lasting imprints or legacies that you want to pass on to other people, organizations, or causes that you care about. And then the social dimension of wealth is comprised of the impact that a person's life has on society and the world. It is reflected in the causes and the organizations that people care about most deeply. As part of the social dimension, you can be an involuntary philanthropist or a voluntary philanthropist. And we're all philanthropists through our payment of taxes that support society and humanity. The big question is, do you want the federal and state government to decide on the impact that you will have, or do you want to take more control and potentially redirect what you could pay in taxes to the people, causes, and organizations that you care about? It is important to realize that careful blending of the financial, the personal, and the social can greatly enrich your lives and the lasting legacy that we build today and that we leave behind. So we're going to talk about how to build that legacy, and we're going to talk about ways to do it so that you are not an involuntary philanthropist. There's only four things you can do with money. You can spend it, transfer it to your heirs, transfer it to a charity, or transfer it to the IRS. And nobody has ever told me I want to transfer it to the IRS. Matter of fact, most people say I'll do anything to avoid that. So with that in mind, I want to go back and talk about the Tax Cut and Jobs Act very briefly. This is the new law, the new Trump tax that was passed in 2017, became effective in 2018. And prior to the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, many people and most of our clients itemized deductions when they did their taxes. And the reason they were able to itemize is that the hurdle to get over the standard deduction was $6,300 for singles and $12,700 for married filing jointly. The Tax Cut and Jobs Act did several things. First thing it did was it dramatically bumped up the standard deduction. Today in 2020, single people, the standard deduction is $12,400. and 24.8 for married couples under 65. 65 and older, it's even higher, 13.7 for singles, 27.4 for 65 and older. So the hurdle to get over so that you can itemize has greatly been increased. And at the same time, about 56 different deductions were eliminated. So it's been a big change. So I want to talk sort of about how this fits in. So just remember these numbers as we go forward. And I want to talk about 3 charitable giving strategies that many of our clients are using. You may be using some of these. And if you don't know about them when we get through, you might want to. So when we're deciding how much and to whom to contribute our assets to, be sure to consider all the options. Yes, you can always give cash, but making non-cash contributions may reduce your taxes, increase your charitable contributions, and quite frankly, be a smarter way to give. So let's talk a little about that. Number one way is we're going to turbocharge our donations by giving appreciated assets, stocks, mutual funds, real estate. There are other things you can donate, cars, boats, whatever, to the charity of your choice. The asset is transferred directly to the charity. The appreciation in the asset escapes capital gain taxes on your end, and the charity, as a charity, obviously doesn't pay any taxes. So they don't pay any taxes, but you get full credit for the deduction of the gift. Now, you don't want to give something that has depreciated in value. So if you've got a stock, you paid $1,000 for it, and it's worth $500. You don't want to give that $500. You want to sell it, take the capital loss, and then give the stock. But there are many people that have assets that have appreciated that are available for gifting. You know, we're right in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic, and the CARES Act was passed earlier this year. And normally you can only give 60% of your income to a charity. But this year, if you give cash, you can give 100%. But if you give assets you've owned for 12 months or more and they have appreciated, the deduction is limited to 30% of your adjusted gross income. So if you happen to give more than 30%, the remainder just carries over. And we keep using that up for the next 5 years. Okay. So I want to give you an example of an actual case that we've got. A couple came in for a review, and we're just talking about charitable gifting and along with everything else we talk about in a review. And it turns out they're giving their church $600 a month. So if you I hope you can see my mouse. So type of gift is cash. Amount of gift is $7,200, 600 times 12. The cost of the gift is $1.24. Now, how do I get that? Well, they are in a 24% tax bracket. So every dollar that goes into their checkbook, they have to pay 24 cents on. That does not include state tax. That does not include Social Security payroll tax if you're still working. This very easily could get up to $1.30, $1.35. But the net cost to them to give that $7,200 is $8,928. So they're paying $1.24 pre-tax for every dollar they give away. Does it qualify to itemize? Yes, if they're able. This couple was not able to itemize because their charitable giving and their state and property taxes were way under $27,000. So what we decided to do was we looked at their portfolio, and they had a couple of mutual funds in there, and one of them, every dollar that was in that mutual fund had cost them 34 cents. They'd had it about 9 years, so it had grown. So what we're doing is we are gifting their church $7,200 in mutual fund shares. The cost of them out of pocket is about $2,400. And does it qualify to itemize? Yes, it would. And they would be able to deduct the $7,200 were they eligible. The cost difference in this is about $6,500. Now, what this couple's doing is they started taking their $600 and adding it to their brokerage account. And that way, if they need some money in a year or 2 years or 3 years, the tax ramifications to them are going to be much less. Why? Because that money will not have doubled or tripled in the next 3 years. I hope it does, but it probably won't. So they're taking something that was going to cost them money to pull out, although it'd be taxed at 15%, not the 24%. And they're replacing that with money that would be taxed almost very, very little, if any. So gifting assets, especially appreciated assets, is what we call turbocharged gifting. Another way that you can gift money and get a benefit from it is called a donor advised fund. Got a little video here.
What is a donor advised fund? A donor advised fund, or a DAF as they're also known, is a charitable investment account that can only be used for making gifts to charitable causes. When a donor opens a DAF, they're able to irrevocably transfer assets such as cash, publicly traded stock and mutual fund shares, closely held S Corp and C Corp stock, residential and commercial real estate, agricultural commodities, life insurance policies, oil and mineral rights and royalties, or precious metals to fund their charitable giving. Those assets and their value are held inside the fund until the donor is ready to make charitable grants to their favorite causes. A donor is able to advise the fund to make grants in the amounts and on a timeline of the donor's choosing. The charities receive a check from the fund just as if the donor had made a direct donation. Donors like using donor-advised funds at American Endowment Foundation for the following reasons. A DAF at AEF provides some of the best and most immediate tax savings available. When a donor makes a grant to a charity, they can receive as much recognition or privacy as they may desire. At AEF, your donor-advised fund can be passed down to future generations, allowing a donor to build a family legacy of philanthropic giving. The value of the fund can grow tax-free, providing more assets available to fund charitable gifts. Your financial manager can remain involved, overseeing the assets in the fund and providing the consistent investment guidance that you have come to trust. Contact us to find out if a donor-advised fund is right for you.
So there are a lot of places you can get a donor advised fund. I have mine with American Endowment Foundation, Fidelity, Schwab, numerous other people have them. And donor advised funds are like a mini private foundation. Now, to do a private foundation, because of all the paperwork that's required, the tax returns, the excise taxes that are due every year, we think you ought to have more than $1 million to do a private foundation, maybe more than $2 million. But a donor advised fund works just like a foundation. And that money goes into that, and you tell them how you want them, well, you tell us how you want the money invested, and then you tell the donor advised fund who to send money to and when. These allow the engagement of multiple generations. Patty and I set ours up several years ago, and we've got 2 daughters, and we're now letting them pick out charities, and we're making gifts to those charities that they pick out. When we're both gone, they will be co-successors. And I did this for a couple of different reasons. Number one, they're very close, and I'm very, very, very thankful for that. But what this does is it forces them to talk, which I think they would do anyway, to just decide who's going to give the money out. So from a legacy standpoint, it's good for the institutions they care about, you care about, but it also keeps your kids in contact with each other, deciding who, when, and where, and what. So there's no annual gifting requirement. And you do get a tax deduction the year you put money in, and you can make a big lump sum contribution, or you can make ongoing contributions to a donor advised fund. And it's the little video said the money does grow tax free. Several years ago, I had a client come in and we were doing the review. And his main concern was income taxes. And he just wasn't happy with how much income tax he was paying, but he was making a pretty good bit of money, and that's the main reason. And so we talked on for a while, and then he told me that his parents had left him. His father died about 3 years ago, and his mother died about 6 months ago from our meeting. They said they didn't leave me a lot of money, but they worked hard for their money. And it's not going to make a change in my lifestyle one way or the other, but what could I do with this money to honor them? So what we did was we set up a donor advised fund. And when you set up a donor advised fund, you name it whatever you want. You know, Chuck Vickery Gifting, the Vickery Family Foundation, the Vickery Family Charitable Gifting Fund. He put Bill and Mabel Smith, which were the name of his parents. I made those names up, but he used his parents' name. And he put the money in and he got a tax break. And he didn't do anything with the money. He just invested it. We had it invested, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And about 12 years later, he came in and said, I found something I think my parents would really like. And I want to start supporting them on an annual basis. And he did. And that's how it worked. So we run into people that are very philanthropic, but because of the changes in the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, they're taking the standard deduction. But when they add up their state and property taxes and they add up their contributions, they're just slightly below it. They can't quite get over the hurdle of itemizing. So we do a thing we call bunch up. So let's just say they give $10,000 a year to charity. If they have the resources, we might take $40,000 or $50,000 and put it in a donor advised fund. So what they're doing is they are prepaying the next 4 or 5 years of their gifts. And what that allows them to do is to substantially get over that standard deduction and save a ton of money this year. Next year, they take the standard deduction, but all their charitable giving comes out of their donor advised fund. So they're still making gifts. They aren't wasting those gifts from a tax standpoint. And the money can grow, and it's growing tax free. And you can turbocharge that. The example we used where every dollar only costs the clients 34 cents. By using something like that, if you have a brokerage account or some legacy stocks or something. So there's some neat things that a donor advised fund can do. Late last year, December the 20th of 2019, the Secure Act was passed. And the Secure Act is an acronym for Securing Retirement for Every Community. Well, it made 2 or 3 big changes, and one of the changes was that it changed the required minimum distribution, the RMD as we call it, for retirement accounts from age 70 and a half to 72. So basically what this does is it provides an extra 18 months where you can let your money grow before you're being forced to take withdrawals from it. There is a quirk in that law. And the quirk is that the Secure Act left the age for qualified charitable contributions from IRAs at 70 and a half. So a qualified charitable distribution is you take your IRA and you request that your IRA custodian write a check from your IRA to your charity or to multiple charities if you want to do that. Now, both you and your spouse can each make contributions to a qualified charity, which is a 501c3 institution, up to $100,000 per year from your IRA, and you do not pay taxes on that money. Okay. And these charitable contributions count toward your required minimum distribution when you hit 72 or older. So let me sort of show you how this might work. So here's someone that's not using the qualified charitable distribution. They want to give their charity $5,000, so they ask their IRA custodian to send them a check. So $5,000 is deposited in their checking account. They then write a check to their favorite charity. The results, they succeeded. The charity got the $5,000 they wanted. The $5,000 also helps satisfy their required minimum distribution. However, in January, they get a 1099 stating that $5,000 is taxable income to them. And in a 24% tax bracket, the tax bill on that $5,000 is $1,200. So the cost on this was $6,200. Now, if you use a qualified charitable distribution, it's a little bit different. As I said, you have your IRA custodian write a check payable to the charity. They normally send it to you so that you can deliver it to the charity, but they will send it straight to the charity if that's what you want. What's the result? The charity gets the money that you wanted them to get, the $5,000. It satisfies your RMD, but the $5,000 is excluded from taxable income, and the tax bill from this transaction is zero. So it's a $1,200 savings by doing this. So this is a great way to give money, but you have the key to this is you got to be 70 and a half. You can do it the first way at 59 and a half and avoid the 10% penalty on IRA withdrawals. But at 70 and a half, this is a great way to give money and support the institutions that you care about. With a qualified charitable distribution, you do not pay taxes on the amount of the standard deduction or the gift to the charity. So basically, you're not paying taxes on the gift and you're not paying taxes on the standard deduction. You get both and rather than either or. In addition to that, both the QCD and the standard, well, the QCD, this is a misprint on my part. The QCD reduces your modified adjusted gross income and your taxable income. To do a QCD, you got to be 70 and a half. If you're 70 and a half, we know you're on Medicare. And if you're on Medicare, you're probably getting Social Security. So what you pay for Social Security is dependent on your income. So QCD may keep you in a lower bracket so that you pay less for Medicare. It may get your income down to a point where you also don't have to pay tax on all of your Social Security. So we really like QCDs. They cannot come from 403Bs or 401Ks. They only can come out of an IRA. So, but QCDs are great. So I'm going to just sort of insert a little bit of estate planning in here. There are 4 ways we transfer assets. Beneficiaries, what has beneficiaries? Life insurance, retirement accounts, annuities, all have beneficiaries. Ownership, your checking account may be jointly owned with somebody. Your home may be jointly owned with somebody. And living trust, those are trusts that you set up while you're still alive. You name yourself as the trustee and the beneficiary at your death. There's a beneficiary and a successor trustee named. But the beneficiary, ownership, and trust all trump the will. What your will does is it passes what doesn't go through these other ways. And I bring this up simply because I mentioned the Secure Act and how it changed the required minimum distribution age from 70 and a half to 72. It also made a big change for beneficiaries of retirement accounts. If you're a spouse and the beneficiary, there's no impact. You simply inherit the retirement account and you treat it as your own. But if you're the child of the owner, or when your children inherit your retirement account, that's where the change comes in. And in the past, when a child inherited an IRA, we would tell them to stretch out those payments because successful children, don't want to pay any more taxes than they have to. And money in an IRA or retirement account has never been taxed. So when that money comes in, it just goes up on top of your income. Well, in the past, the 45 or 55 or even a 60-year-old inherited an IRA, they would simply take out the required minimum distribution, which is about 2-3% for somebody that age. And they would do that every year. So they were stretching out the taxes. And then when they retired, if they wanted to take more out, they could. Today, a non-spouse beneficiary that is of legal age has to take all the money out in 10 years. They didn't specify how. You can take it out on day one and pay all the taxes on it. You can take it out 10% a year and spread the taxes out over 10 years. You can wait till the 10th year and take it out in that 10th year. If you're 62 and you inherit an IRA and you're going to retire at 65, maybe you don't do anything for the first 5 years. And then at 67, when you retire, you take out 20% a year for 5 years, getting to that age 72 to supplement it. So but the impact of this is the beneficiary is going to pay a lot more money on taxes. So we want to transfer the right asset and we want to die with the right asset. And what I mean by this is we had a client, had a substantial IRA and he had a substantial brokerage account. And he had a charity that he really, really liked. So in his will, he left $1 million to his charity. And in his IRA, which is also $1 million, he left that to his son. Now, his son was successful. And he was not a client of ours when he set this up. And once he became a client and we got to digging in, we got to talking to him and said, look, why don't we change the beneficiary of your IRA to the charity and the beneficiary of your will to your son? The charity will not pay any tax on that IRA, but your son will pay almost 50% tax. And we have a thing called step up in basis. So if you paid $100 for something and it's worth $1,000 and somebody receives that at your death, that's a bequest, an inheritance, the basis steps up from 100 to 1,000 and the person that receives it can sell it the next day and not pay any income taxes on it. So by making that change, leaving the right asset to the right person, it saved his son almost $500,000 in taxes, and the charity he wanted to support still got what he wanted them to have. So we're starting to see, as we review wills, more and more people are saying, I want 5% of my assets to go to this charity and 5% to go to that charity. Let's sit down and look. I said earlier, we've got 3 dimensions of wealth: financial, personal, and social. Let's sit down and look and make sure that we are being as tax efficient as possible with our charitable giving, and maybe set up a separate IRA or just make the IRA the charity a beneficiary of a separate IRA, or at least name them in the IRA and not in the will to get taxable things. And we had a couple that have no children. They love their college where they went, and they wanted their assets to go there. They had some nieces and nephews and relatives, and they wanted some money to go there. And we made some changes like this, and it just worked out a lot better. And the college is very happy and has named part of the their infrastructure out of this couple, after this couple. So it's important to sit down and look at this, and because now with this Secure Act and beneficiaries being forced to take money out faster, we just want to make sure that we're not forcing something on our children that we don't absolutely have to. So in summary, there are 3 smart ways to make charitable contributions: gifting appreciated assets, a donor advised fund, qualified charitable distributions from an IRA. Which is best for you? All the advisors here at Vickery Financial, I don't know which one you work with, are very familiar with these things. So the holidays are coming up. Thanksgiving is next week. Giving Tuesday is the following Tuesday. This year has been different from any other year with the COVID and the pandemic. I don't know how you're going to get together with your family over Thanksgiving, whether it's going to be in person, whether it's going to be a video conference or a telephone call. But one of the things we try to do with our family is spend a little bit of time with our girls, because we get them both here. One's local, one's in California. But we'll sit down and we'll talk with them about, all right, what are you thinking about from a charitable giving standpoint? What type institution do you want to give? And we let them pick them out. But we want to, I don't want to direct them. I just want to make sure that they're thinking about it. And I want to discuss and review our plans for the balance of the year and beyond. I want them to be givers, and they are, and I'm very proud of that. So, which causes do you and do they want to support? So it's just a good time to do that. Okay. If we have any questions now, Betsy, do we have any questions?
We do. We have several. The first one, and we do have a lot of attendees who work for nonprofits or sit on the board of nonprofits. And so I know that there will be some questions for people in those areas as well. But the first question is, what is the minimum amount to start and maintain a donor advised fund?
It's $10,000. And you can start it with that, and you can draw it down over 2 or 3 years. You don't have to maintain the balance.
Okay, very good. And then what if a parent with estate planning does not have a spouse, so it goes to the child? What's the impact?
So we have a single parent, either through divorce or death, and they want to, if they give, is this an IRA question or a donor advised fund succession?
This came soon after the donor advised fund question. So Christy, if you're there and you just want to confirm in the message box if this is a question about the IRA, but so if the parent doesn't have a spouse and it goes to the child, what's the impact?
Well, if the parent died this year in 2020, that money has to come out in 10 years if it's an IRA. If they died December 31st, 2019 or sooner, we're under an old set of laws, and and we can do that stretch IRA under that one. So it's not changing existing inherited IRAs. It's just changing inherited IRAs this year going forward.
Okay. Christy, if that doesn't answer your question, just go ahead and ping us another message there. She says, Dad has estate planning and left it to me. Parents are divorced and I'm the beneficiary.
Okay. So it's, so the assets in the IRA will be taxable to you. The assets outside of the IRA that are not in an annuity, you will receive a step up in basis on those assets, and you can either hang on to them or sell them. If you sell them, there'll be no taxes. If you hang on to them for 10 years and you sell them, then only the appreciation from the date that you received it until you sell it will be taxed, not any prior appreciation.
Okay. I have shares of mutual funds that have grown a lot over the last few years. Does that mean it would be a good time to use those for a charitable gift?
Yes. And we can look at the fund. There have been some dividends maybe that have been reinvested. I know next month there'll be dividends paid out. Those haven't grown very much because they just were paid. But we can look at lots, LOTS, maybe when you bought it way back 5, 6, 15, 20 years ago, we can use that lot date. And sometimes we see those are up 2, 3, 4 times what people paid for them. And those are, so you just want to specify the lot. But again, we can tell you which lot to use if you'll just give us a statement.
Does it make sense under the current tax law to bunch up my gifts to charity in 1 year?
Yes, especially if you are not able to itemize every year. So that's the purpose in bunching up. Let's just, if you've got the resources, let's just go ahead and open up a donor advised fund, make a big contribution, and then you're out of the giving business for the next 3, 4, 5 years from out of your pocket. And if you want to take your annual gifts and put it back in the account they came out of, then you're paying yourself back and you're using your donor advised fund. And you can sprinkle that money around. You can decide when to give it and how much to give it. AES, for example, the minimum gift is $250. So if you want to do something for the YMCA annual fund, it has to be $250. If you want to give the Girl Scouts some money, it has to be $250. If you want to give the junior league some money, it has to be $250. If you want to give your church $6,000, go for it. So, or any amount you want, up to the maximum in your account.
Okay, very good. Can I give more than my RMD as a QCD?
Yes. You can give up to $100,000 a year. And for your $100,000 to be your RMD, you have to have almost $2 million in your IRA. So if you've got less than that, you can give $100,000. Even if your RMD is only $20,000.
Very good. Last question. How do I know which of these giving strategies is best for me?
Which is best for you? Talk to your advisor here. If you're not a client, come in and just talk with us. We'll gladly sit down and visit with you and give you our thoughts. So we've got 7 advisors here, and all of them are familiar with these strategies. And looking at your personal situation, looking at your financial situation, then we can make a decision on your social situation, which one works best for you. There are a couple of other things that we didn't get into, and I don't really want to, but I'll just throw them out there right quick. And one of them is a charitable lead trust, and this is where you make a giant contribution to a charity that you really care about. And what happens is that money's in an investment account, and the income from it every year goes to the charity for a period of time, usually 10 or more years. And at the end of that period, the remaining value of that goes to your family. Okay, so this is for people that have a big time estate problem and they need to worry about it, or somebody that has a chunk of money and they want to make sure that they're doing something for their charity. So that's a charitable lead trust. There's another thing called a charitable remainder trust. And here what happens is you give a chunk of money to your favorite charity, and they pay you and your spouse an income as long as you live. Now, you do get a pretty good deduction up front, and you get income for the rest of your life. But at your death, the charity keeps the money. That's why it's called the remainder. Charitable lead, the charity gets the income, and ultimately you or your family get some of the money back. Charitable remainder, you get the income, and the charity keeps the remainder. So those are things we can talk about as well. We just don't see these as often as we do the other 3 things that we were talking about. So
those are all our questions. And because we do have several people that are on the boards of various nonprofits here in Athens, maybe just talk real briefly about how you might be able to work with them if any of their donors have any questions, or if they want to reach out maybe to their donors with some advice.
If we can do anything, maybe for your donors, take this program, modify it so that it just fits your need, we will gladly do that. I know that for several of the charities in town, we have set up brokerage accounts. Those are commission-free accounts that we do just to assist the institutions that service our area. And so whether it's a church or some big charity, we will gladly help you any way we can. If you have donors that have questions, we will gladly review their situation and point them in a direction that helps them help you.
Very good. And Chuck will be doing this webinar again tonight at 6 o'clock. If any of you want to share the link to that with any of your donors or your friends or your family members, you can go on our website at vickeryfinancial.com, and there is a tab there that says webinars and events, and there's a different link to the 6 p.m. So this one won't be active. There'll be a different link for the 6 o'clock, and they can just click that and register to join us at 6 o'clock. We're also going to record, this is being recorded. We're going to put this up on our Facebook page, and we'll have access to that. So if there's somebody that can't join us that you want to see it, you'll be able to share that with them.
All right, I'm gonna say goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. It's a beautiful day. Go for a walk. Enjoy lunch. Thank you. We appreciate you putting your trust and confidence in Vickery Financial. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye, Chuck.
Betsy, you still there?